remembering ever that as the consciousness is more confined and restricted, so inertia, lack of response and limitation of radiation will be seen. By a close scrutiny of chart V, it will be apparent wherein lies the problem of the Logos, and wherein lies the accuracy of the correspondence between him and his reflection man. First, both are in objective manifestation on the physical plane. Second, both are at their point of deepest involution. Third, both are trammeled by matter, and are developing consciousness, egoic consciousness, on the physical plane, man on the solar physical, and the Logos on the cosmic physical plane. Fourth, man has to bring down into conscious full control, the God within. Through that control he must dominate circumstance, make his environment his instrument and manipulate matter. On cosmic levels the Logos does likewise. Both are far from achievement. Fifth, both work in, with, and by electrical force. Sixth, both come under the laws governing forms and hence both are controlled in time and space by karma, which is the law of forms. It has to do with quality, as force has to do with vibration. Seventh, both work through forms made up of a. Three main types of forms. A mental form, one aspect of manifestation. An astral form, a second aspect. And a physical form, the third aspect. The mental vibration sets the key measure, and seeks to utilize, and coordinate the physical body at will. It deals with or links up the consciousness to the three forms in one direction. It repulses and causes separation in another. The astral vibration deals with the quality, with the attractive measure. It is the psychic element. The physical is the meeting ground of consciousness with the material form. This last is the result produced by the union of the key measure and the quality of tone. B7 centers of force which hold the three forms in one coherent whole, and cause their vitalization and their coordination. They put the triple unit into correlation with their main center of consciousness on the higher planes, whether that center is the causal body of man, of a planetary Logos, or of a solar Logos. See millions of infinitesimal cells, each embodying a lesser life, each in a condition of constant activity, and each repulsing other cells so as to preserve individuality or identity, yet each held to each by a central attractive force. Thus we have produced the objective form of a crystal, a vegetable, an animal, a man, a planet, a system. Finally, both work, therefore, in a dual manner, and each demonstrates both attraction and repulsion. Attraction of matter to spirit, and the building of a form for the use of spirit is the result of electrical energy in the universe, which in each case brings the lesser lives or spheres into its range of influence. The magnetic force, the life of the Logos, gathers together his body of manifestation. The magnetic force of the heavenly man, the planetary Logos, gathers out of the solar ring pass not that which he needs for each incarnation. The magnetic force of the ego gathers, at each rebirth, matter within the particular sphere or scheme within which the ego has place. So on down the scale, we find the lesser pursuing its round ever within the greater. Therefore we have, during a period of attraction and repulsion, or a life cycle, that which we call time, and space, and this holds equally true in the life cycle of a Logos, or an ant, or a crystal. There are cycles of activity in matter, due to some energizing will, and then time and space are known. There are cycles of non-being when time and space are not, and the energizing will is withdrawn. But we must not forget that this is purely relative, and only to be considered from the standpoint of the particular life, or entity involved, and the special stage of awareness reached. All must be interpreted in terms of consciousness. The first type of cycle, or the period involved in one entire revolution of a sphere around its own center of consciousness, is to the particular entity involved, be he God or man, a lesser cycle. The second type of cycle, or the period involved in the complete circling of an orbit, or the revolution of a sphere around the center of which it is an integral part, we can consider as a greater cycle. The third type of cycle has not so much to do with the transition of the form through a certain location in space but as the cycle which includes both the greater and the lesser cycles. It has to do with the response of the entity, to whom our solar logos is but a center in his body, to the contacts made on that center and on its cosmic opposite. These two centers, for instance, our solar system and its cosmic opposite, in their interaction create a cycle period which has a relation to the one WHO is above our logos. This is, of course, beyond human conception, but must be included in our enumeration of cycles if exactitude is to be achieved. VIY is knowledge both exoteric and esoteric? 11,816. We can now take up the question next in order, which was worded. Why do we consider certain aspects of knowledge esoteric, and other aspects as exoteric? The answer to this practically involves the realization that some knowledge deals with the subjective side of life, and the other type of knowledge with the objective side. That one type of knowledge is concerned with energy and force, hence the danger of undue hasty revelation, and another with that which is energized. Therefore it will be apparent that until the faculty of ascertaining subjective information is achieved, whole ranges of facts will remain outside the scope of the consciousness of the majority. As we have been told, the goal of evolution is the attainment of consciousness on all planes. Owing to the small evolutionary attainment of the race, only the physical plane is as yet in any way brought under conscious control. The knowledge which deals with that plane, the information which is concerned with densest objectivity, the sum total of facts connected with the 5 lower subplanes of the physical plane are, from the occult standpoint, considered exoteric. During the next 2 races the other 2 subplanes will be mastered, and the entire mass of knowledge concerned with physical and etheric matter, with energy, form and experience, on the physical plane, will be easily available to man, and concern only his 5 physical senses. Information and knowledge of the life evolving through the forms will for a considerably longer time be considered esoteric, as also will the apprehension and comprehension of the matter aspect, and the laws governing energy on the astral and the mental planes. This is stated in connection with average man, the rank and file of humanity. Objective or exoteric information is largely that obtained or ascertained by men in the hall of learning by means of the 5 senses, and by experiment. Experiment in due course of time, and after many cycles of incarnation is transmuted into experience, and this produces eventually that which we call instinct, or the habitual reaction of some type of consciousness to a given set of circumstances, or of environment. These 2 factors of the senses, and of experimental contact can be seen working out in the animal and human kingdoms. The difference between the 2 exists in the ability of the man consciously to remember, apprehend, anticipate, and utilize the fruits of past experience, and thus influence the present and prepare for the future. He employs the physical brain for this purpose. An animal likewise has an instinctual memory, apprehension, and an embryo anticipation, but, lacking mind, he is unable to adjust them to circumstances in the sense of prearrangement, and lacks the capacity consciously to utilize, and thus reap, the benefit of past events, and to learn from experience in the manner which a man does. The animal uses the solar plexus in the same way that a man uses the brain. It is the organ of instinct. All that can be acquired by instinct and by the use of the concrete mind, functioning through the physical brain can be considered as dealing with that which we call exoteric. It is thus evident how the range of fact will differ according to a. The age of the soul. B. Experience developed and used. C. Condition of the brain and the physical body. D. Circumstances and environment. As time progresses and man reaches a fair state of evolution, mind is more rapidly developed, and a new factor comes gradually into play. Little by little the intuition, or the transcendental mind, begins to function, and eventually supersedes the lower or concrete mind. It then utilizes the physical brain as a receiving plate, but at the same time develops certain centers in the head, and thus transfers the zone of its activity from the physical brain to the higher head centers, existing in etheric matter. For the mass of humanity, this will be effected during the opening up of the etheric subplanes during the next 2 races. This is paralleled in the animal kingdom by the gradual transference of the zone of activity from the solar plexus to the rudimentary brain, and its gradual development by the aid of manas. As we consider these points, it will become apparent that the esoteric aspects of knowledge are really those zones of consciousness which are not yet conquered, and brought within the radius of control of the indwelling entity. The point to be emphasized is that when this is realized, the true significance of the esoteric and the occult will be appreciated, and the endeavor of all knowers will be to draw within the zone of their knowledge other units who are ready for a similar expansion of consciousness. In this thought lies the key to the work of the Brotherhood. They attract by their force into certain fields of realization, and endeavor, and by that attraction and the response of those human atoms who are ready, the group soul on the upward arc, or a particular center of a heavenly man, is coordinated. In the same way the animal is brought at a certain stage into the zone of influence of the lesser sons of mind, human beings who are the elder brothers of the animals, as the masters of the wisdom are the elder brothers where humanity is concerned. So the interlocking proceeds and the division of responsibility. What is the relation between a. the 10 planetary schemes, b. the 7 sacred planets, c. the 7 chains in the scheme, d. the 7 globes in the chain, e. the 7 rounds on a globe, f. the 7 root races and the 7 subraces? We have in this question a vast quantity of matter to deal with, and it will be impossible for us to do more than to get a broad and general idea. The subject is so vast, and the comprehensiveness of the interrelated points is so great that we shall only attain lucidity if we confine our attention to certain broad general conceptions, leaving the subsidiary points for more detailed elucidation at some later period. 1. The interrelated parts. Primarily I would suggest that we consider this subject only as it concerns a heavenly man, that we omit from our immediate calculations the consideration of the cellular composition of his body, those separated units of consciousness which we call deva and human beings, and that we view the matter from what is to the human being, the group concept, and not the individual. The entire middle section of this treatise on the fires has to do with the development of the consciousness of a heavenly man, and the application by him of the knowledge gained, through the aid of manas, or mind, in the previous solar system, to the acquisition of wisdom through objectivity, and to the transmutation of the earlier acquired faculty into applied love. This is his work in the